Welcome to the Business Power Hour with Darren and the Music Man. Brought to you by Friend Entertainment USA, producing the best concerts for charities and corporations for over 30 years. And CBMS Consulting Services, control your business before it controls you. In association with Area 22 Productions, your multimedia streaming network. Now, here is Darren and the Music Man.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Business Power Hour with Darren and the Music Man. I'm Darren Sayafi. Welcome. I just want to give you the Norm update. Norm's doing actually a lot better. He's getting there. Hopefully, he'll be back soon. We don't know exactly when, but he is recuperating very nicely. So, Norm, we miss you. We're looking forward to having you back very soon. So thanks for joining us tonight. We have a great show tonight. I know I say that every week because we have great guests. Tonight we're going to be talking about insurance and the importance of making sure that you have everything that you need just in case something happens. I have with me today Joe Gargiulo. He's a friend of mine. I've known him for a while. He's with Liberty Mutual Insurance. And Joe, welcome.
Thank you. Welcome.
All right. Thanks for joining us tonight. So Joe, tell us a little bit about Liberty Mutual Insurance and what you guys are all about.
So I work for a great organization. They've been around since 1912. Mm-hmm. We're owned by our policyholders, which is kind of unique. And it's an organization that's built so much on integrity and doing the right thing, putting the customer first. And it's an organization that's constantly looking to continuously improve.
So when you say, you're owned by your policyholders, so if I had a policy with Liberty Mutual, I would actually be a part owner of the company.
Right. So traditionally, insurance companies were mutual companies, hence our name, Liberty Mutual. That means that we're mutually owned. So you even get like in the mail a vote by proxy, so you can vote for the board of directors and stuff like that.
So basically the profits will roll back down to us. So
it trickle down in the form of keeping the rates low and doing the right thing, which is kind of cool. We don't have like a Donald Trump up top that is buying casinos or...
So tell me, let me ask you this. I mean, you work with a great company, obviously. It's a national company, right? A worldwide company, right? Liberty Mutual. I'm going to give you a Norman question.
Okay.
All right. When you were a kid on the playground, were you thinking about becoming an insurance agent, or how did that come about? How did you become an insurance agent?
Definitely not thinking about anything other than just what was for dinner that night.
Right.
So truth be told, I was in college and I was working for a company that installed in-ground swimming pools.
What were you going to college for?
Business.
Okay.
Marketing. So sales. I come from a very strong sales background because both my parents were individual business owners. My mom owned a hair cutting salon. My dad owned a printing company.
Okay.
So I knew I wanted to get into something business. I just didn't know what. And I was literally digging ditches for a pool company, and I had a medical condition with my eyes that forced me basically to have to go indoors.
So what kind of medical condition did you have?
So it was a very rare genetic disorder. It had to do with my corneas. It's called keratoconus.
Right.
And basically, by the time I was 19 and a half years old, I was legally blind in both my eyes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So that had to be trying.
Yeah.
That had to be a very trying time for you.
It was crazy because literally I went from sitting in the middle of the classroom to closer and closer and closer. And I was at the front of the classroom squinting. I couldn't even see. And the only way to rectify the situation were actually cornea transplants in both my eyes.
Wow. So, I mean, is that something that happened overnight? Was it something you had a trial, was it a trial type of thing?
The craziest thing was, this is back in the 80s. So they literally gave me a beeper. So when you were on the donors list and you were like number 1 or 2, you walked around with this beeper. And when the beeper went off, you had 24 hours to get to the hospital.
I mean... That had to be scary.
Oh, it was totally scary.
I mean, because every day it's, what it sounds like to me and what you're describing is every day it got darker and darker for you.
Yeah.
And harder for you to see.
Blurrier, actually.
Yeah.
And the transplant surgeries, all they allowed me to do was wear these special hard contact lenses that give me 20/20 vision. But every night when I take those contact lenses out, I'm legally blind again. Like
Really?
literally, like I have to look at my cell phone like this.
Right, I gotcha.
It's pretty wild. But you know what? It's one of those things where you know what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Right.
And I feel like it molded me into who I am today, and it made me appreciate every single day, every minute of every day.
Well, and that's the thing. A lot of us take for granted the time that we have, and how good we have it, right? So you went from a situation where you were digging ditches, everything was great. You're a young guy, young, strong guy. You had a very bright future ahead of you, and all of a sudden you had to kind of make a turn.
Right.
Right?
I mean, here I
So-
was, like everybody my age was out partying and doing their thing, and literally like I'm having my mom hold my hand to get to the doctor's office in Manhattan every
Wow.
time I had to go. you
Wow,
know, and
so,
it,
yeah.
it required weekly visits. You know, it's.
So now how old were you when you had the surgery?
I had my first surgery when I was 19 years old, and
Okay.
my immune system was so strong it actually rejected it. So
Really?
I had 3 months later, I had to go for a second cornea transplant,
Wow.
and that was in my right eye. And the wild thing is that they tell you that the surgery only lasts for like 10, 15 years, maybe 20 at tops, and that was over 30 years ago.
Wow.
And my cornea is still
It's
holding
it's
strong.
still
I've been
holding
taking care of that
strong.
one, yeah.
Well, thank God for that,
Yeah.
right? So
And then my left eye I had done 10 years later because they wanted to wait for my immune system to calm down. So I literally
Right.
walked around just with one eye for like 10 years. which
wow,
was-
that
yeah,
had to
it
be
was pretty-
difficult.
Yeah.
So that really drove you to getting an office type of job instead
Yeah.
of being out and driving around and things
Absolutely,
like
yeah.
that. So what got you to insurance, though? What got you there?
So back in the day, the way people used to advertise insurance is that you would have these jingles on the radio.
Right.
You know, and I was, like I said, I was literally digging ditches for a swimming pool company, and I heard a jingle come on, and for advertising one of the local brokers. And at the end of the ad, there was an advertisement for a job. So I called
Right.
up the company, and they brought me down, and they're like, "This is what you're going to do." And back then it was wild because there was no computers. There wasn't even a fax machine. Everything was calculator, huge rating manual, a pad, and a pencil.
So everything was manual.
Oh, yeah.
It
And I was
wasn't
a
like
math
today
whiz.
where you can
Yeah.
go online and you can just go, I want this,
Right.
this, and it'll calculate for you.
Right, exactly. And luckily I was a math whiz in high school, so
Right.
it was natural for me. But I got such a high and such a thrill from helping people, like save money. I got
Okay.
addicted to it. I mean, you could put a smile on people's faces in a lot of different ways, but when you're putting, back then, hundreds of dollars in a family's budget, especially a family that really needed the money for something else, it was just like, I mean, the thank yous were, it wasn't about making money myself as much as it was about saving people money. It was just, and I got addicted to that. I really did.
It's a powerful feeling, right?
It really is, yeah.
And it really drives you as to what you want to do.
Yeah, I found
So,
my calling.
You found your calling. You found your why.
Yeah, I
right.
found
We
my
talk.
why,
I
yeah.
talk about that when I do
I know.
my talks and things like that. Is knowing what your why you do what you do.
Yeah.
And you do what you do because you know you're helping people.
Right.
You're just not selling insurance.
Exactly.
right?
And then you get to that other aspect of you'll come across somebody who has the complete wrong insurance or like nowhere near enough insurance for what the risk for what they have.
Right.
And now it's not about price, it's just about providing that protection, about that peace of mind. And when you have
Before we get into that,
Yeah.
right? How if I wanted to get a hold of you, Joe, how do I do that?
Okay, so I have a direct line, area code 631-791-4076. Option 1 goes right to my phone. So that's 631-791-4076. And I also have, you could email me. I'm a big email person. You could email me 2 o'clock in the morning and I might respond. It's joseph.gargiulo@libertymutual.com.
All right. So and we're going to have that spelling on the screen for you. At Liberty Mutual, right? So is there, if I went to a website, do you have your website? that you can do?
It's the regular Liberty Mutual website. So you
Yeah.
can just search by my office is in Hauppauge. So if you go to Hauppauge office, you're going to see me all over the place. But
Okay.
if you
All right,
Google,
fantastic.
You Google my name, Liberty Mutual Hauppauge, you'll find me no problem.
Right. Okay. So tell me about the different types of it. I know insurance, look, you speak to, and you do this because we've met through networking events and things like that.
Right.
You go to these networking events, and everybody's an insurance
Right.
salesman or broker or a representative,
Sure.
for lack of a better term. But when you start talking to them, they seem to specialize in different things. and
Yes.
they hone in on it. Are you one of those type of guys where, if I said, hey, I had actually somebody actually one of my clients asked me, do you know an insurance guy that does rental car insurance? I want to start renting cars. I need an
Right.
insurance company for that.
So, I'm a personal insurance guy. When I
Okay.
say personal insurance, just think of everything that a family would own.
All right.
Okay. So
not business.
Not-
You wouldn't necessarily
Right.
deal with business
right.
insurance.
Do light commercial because some families do own a small business.
Right.
But for the most part, my expertise is in life insurance, auto insurance, homeowners, umbrella, and then we do
Okay.
like motorcycles and RVs and boats
Right.
and all
Yeah.
those
Things like that.
Right.
Anything that would
Right.
really a family would need.
Right.
Let me ask you about life insurance.
Sure.
Because that seems to be a hot topic lately with a lot of my clients, because we're doing a lot of succession planning and things like that. So life insurance is always the hot topic.
Yes.
I know that from the perspective of getting life insurance, a lot of things factor in, right? Age, health, right?
Sure.
If you're
Smoker,
a male, you're a
non-smoker.
smoker, non-smoker, male, female, things like that. I have asked, and the audience knows I'm a private pilot, right?
Okay.
So I fly aircraft. I fly for the Air Force Auxiliary. I do all of that things. I remember when I first got my life insurance years and years and years ago.
Right.
One of the questions was, "Are you a pilot?" Is that something that a hobby, a high risk hobby? I guess would they consider that like a high risk hobby?
It depends. Like, are you a fighter pilot?
Right. Yeah.
Well, it all comes down to, and my son, he went for his pilot's license.
Right.
So I know and I appreciate all the checks and balances. I mean, before he got in the plane, you guys go through a checklist on
Yep.
the plane.
Everything's about checklists.
Everything. I couldn't believe,
Yeah.
check the fuel valve, check this, check that. So the risk of something really has to do with what is the actual risk.
Right.
Because some things that may seem risky on the outside,
Are really
like being a pilot,
not
really
as-
aren't, because there's so many safeguards put into place.
Right.
It's really not.
So, okay, so let's take an example, right? If you get these people, they do deep sea diving, they dive with sharks, right? All of those type of
Where you
things.
going,
Well, I know you got a great shark story, right?
I do, yes.
So would that affect your ability to get life insurance if that's something that you would do? I mean,
If it was a profession, maybe,
right? If it's a hobby, then
if it's a hobby, it depends, but most likely not.
okay. So that wouldn't be something that they would ask you to say,
Right. I
what-
mean, if you told me that you go on bungee cord jumping, every weekend off
Right.
of bridges, that's not really a very regulated hobby.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or if you're a NASCAR driver or something,
Right.
that's a little bit different, So.
Well, that's a profession, right?
Right,
that's a whole
it's true,
different thing.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Well,
this
if
is-
you're a street racer, that could be a hobby too.
Yeah,
And that's
so-
not something that we would really want to know about.
right, right. Yeah, we don't want to know about those things.
Yeah.
Now, if I was one of those things,
Mm-hmm.
right, and God forbid something would happen to me,
Mm-hmm.
how does that affect the policy? If you're doing something that
Well,
the policy wouldn't normally cover.
the funny thing about life insurance policies is very few exclusions, and the exclusions are only for a 2-year period, believe it or not, in New York. So
Right.
the big exclusion is suicide, but
Right.
just during the first 2 years.
Okay.
The second exclusion would be something that was undisclosed to us, that had we known about it, we
Right.
probably wouldn't insure the person in the first place. Question 1, do you currently or have you in the last 10 years had cancer? And the person says no, and
Then you find out they did.
18 months later, they died from
Cancer.
Okay.
Right.
But after that 2 years, if you do want to become a street racer, you do want to become a pilot or a cage diver or whatever,
Right.
it's not going to. There's not going to be something listed in the policy that excludes you from doing that.
Right.
So, and life's constantly changing. So the whole point is that you really do need a life insurance, and you can't really be thinking, all right, you know what, I ride motorcycles on the weekends, and they're probably not going to want to insure me because I'm a biker.
Right.
No, that's not something you should even think about.
So tell me about it. I know before the show we talked about this.
Mm-hmm.
You have you have a shark experience.
I do have a shark
You
experience.
have a shark experience, and that's why I brought up the shark thing.
Okay.
Well, not only that, because along the East Coast this summer we've had quite a few shark attacks.
Right.
It's the first time since 1948 off of Long Island they actually had a couple of shark attacks. But tell us about that. You went on a trip, and I believe we have some video to that too.
Yeah.
So
So
why don't
when I
you
was
tell
a
us about the
kid-
video and what's
When
going
I was a
on?
kid, I was a big, and still am, big Shark Week kind of
Okay.
fan, right? And my dad is a semi-professional photographer. When I was a kid, he used to shoot weddings and stuff
Right.
like that. And photography still's always been his hobby. So a few years back, I brought my dad on his dream vacation. We
Okay.
went to South Africa to do a photo shoot of safari. But being a Shark Week fan, I knew that in September when we were there, also just kind of coincided with the great white shark migration.
So you were able to do something with your dad, right? A goal that your dad had, and actually give that to him. But one of your goals was actually being able to experience the sharks in South Africa. Well, South Africa, as we know, is like a huge shark place,
Oh, it's
right?
crazy, yeah. And on the surface, that might sound like, that's probably the most riskiest thing somebody could do. But honestly, I risk my life 10 times more every single time I drive home on the LIE.
It's scary though, but you know what I mean?
But if you think about it this way, right? Taking risks is all about the safeguards that are put in place.
Right.
So I knew that I was going into a cage that was designed to keep the sharks out.
Right.
Run by professionals, the tour guides, who they do this for a living. So
Right.
losing somebody or losing somebody's limb is not good for business.
Right,
Okay?
yeah.
So I'm pretty sure that they knew what they were doing. All right.
Right.
And so I kind of did my research, and that's kind of like ties into like my daily life, what I do with my
Right.
job. It's all about people have risks that they take every day, like driving on the LIE.
Okay.
You
So-
drive your car on the LIE, you might get into a car accident. Do you have enough insurance to cover yourself in case you get hurt, in case you lose your wages,
Right.
like stuff like that.
Right. So let me ask you this. So you go to this place. These are professionals. That you're going to jump into this cage. How do they prepare you for that? Like when people go skydiving.
Right.
You go and you get a couple of classes before you go and skydive.
Right.
Right. Is it similar to that when you're doing this shark thing, or is it just here's a mask and a snorkel?
Well, I'm in
and
South Africa, keep in mind, okay?
Okay. So
Which is pretty civilized country, but it's not like, it's not like doing a tour of Disney, okay?
Okay,
So, no, they basically prepped you on certain things. And the whole thing is that we are still dealing with wild animals. So you don't know how they're going to behave. You don't know if they're even going to be there.
keep your fingers inside the cage.
They may not even be there. You might go out for 3 hours and never see a shark.
Right.
So they put a whole bunch of chum in the water. They take a tuna head, they tie it to a rope, and they throw it out.
I was just going to say, just explain so anybody who doesn't understand what chum is, it's basically
ground up fish.
It's ground up fish that they throw into the
Yeah.
water to attract the sharks, right? So
And so they put you in this cage, and the cage holds about 6 people, right? And at first we were given air devices that were hooked up to an air compressor, but the noise that the compressor was making must have been keeping every shark away.
So they shut it off.
They changed us over to snorkels and masks.
Okay.
And it was, I'll tell you, it was pretty amazing because you knew when a shark was coming because they would tell you there's a shark coming to the left, dive down, and you go down, and you saw this massive shark just
well,
swimming by the cage.
I saw the video,
Yeah,
and
it's
there's
cool.
some really close-up shots of these sharks. I mean, they were right there, right next to you, right? So that had to be pretty amazing.
It was, and the crazy part of the trip is that the woman that was next to me, what happens is they give you a weight belt so you can stay down because everybody's buoyant, and we're in the Indian Ocean, which is so salty, so you're floating up. You really had to struggle to keep down, so they give you a weight belt. But the woman next to me, I guess her weight belt wasn't really heavy enough to keep her down. So halfway through the dive, she asked me how I was staying down, and I told her my weight belt's keeping me down. And I asked why, and she's like, well, I found a better way. When you go down, just stick your legs out the back of the cage and grip on. And I looked at her.
She realized that, the shark could come around.
That's what I said. She goes, no, but the sharks are only in front of the cage. Like, she didn't understand the concept. This isn't a Disney ride. You know what I mean? Like, the sharks can be anywhere. Oh, man. So, Yeah.
that had to be a great experience.
Yeah.
Now you said you took your dad to Africa because he wanted to do a photo shoot on a safari, right?
Right.
So your dad, one of his hobbies is, because you said he was a printer
Right.
before, one of his hobbies is a photographer?
Correct. So
Okay.
while I was in the cage, my dad's
Right.
up on the flying bridge, and he's using a high-speed lens, and he's taking these rapid photos because as the mate was throwing his tuna head, and he's pulling it and making this, basically teasing the shark. The
Right.
sharks would. There was like 7 great white sharks around the boat. They would breach out of the water, and it's so quick. It's not like when you see stuff on Discovery Channel. Literally,
It's
that's like
slowed
slow
down.
motion, right?
Right.
So he's taking these rapid fire shots, and he has no idea what pictures he's getting.
Right.
And on the bus ride back, he's looking at his camera and he's looking at the different photos, and all of a sudden his eyes almost pop out of his head because
Wow.
he saw his money shot, which
saw-
I think you guys have. You can
Yeah,
show it.
yeah.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
if we could show that picture now, Stephen, that would be fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
that
literally,
was
that's like
yeah.
Discovery Channel
That
right
was-
there.
yeah,
And that
and
yellow
that-
rope that you see in the photo is
Right.
there's a tuna head attached to that rope, but the
Right.
tuna head is down the shark's throat at that point.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
That is
Yeah.
that is definitely wild.
Yeah.
That is wild. So okay, so what you're telling me is that if I have this crazy hobby in that, as long as I don't lie on my application,
Right. There may
We're
be extra
covered.
questions, but like we don't have a shark question. We do have a racing question. We do have actually scuba diving questions. So if somebody is certified in scuba diving or a
Right.
pilot, like you said, it's just additional questions that we might ask because we
Right.
want to find out
how many hours they have. Things
exactly.
Like
Are
that.
you
Right.
certified? How many dives you do a year? Or how many times you fly?
Right.
Because maybe you might pay a little more because the whole thing with risk, there's no such thing as the wrong risk. There's the wrong price. So sometimes when we have to charge more money to just make up for the additional risk that we're taking as a company.
It's the right coverage, right?
Yeah.
So that kind of leads us into, this day and age. Why would I call you instead of just go online and get my own insurance?
That's a good question.
Right. So
yeah.
years ago, I did the old thing where I saw Flo on TV, and at the time I was going through a divorce, I was changing insurance companies. I said, you know what, I'm
Right.
just going to go online, and I'm going to get my own insurance. And I went
Right.
online. I said, this is how much I usually spend. So I just went off and I started checking boxes till I got to my number.
Right.
Is this?
So now, what boxes did you check? And
What checking? So why?
Part of it has to do with.
What's the value of going to you other than just going online and
Got
just
it.
getting my insurance?
So, especially when it comes to auto and homeowners insurance, there's different aspects in life and different points in where we are in our lives where different coverages might matter and
Right.
coverage and stuff like that. And now I'm going to sound old, but I've kind of been through a lot of it already because I've purchased my own house, I've been
Right.
married, I've put kids through college. So I've been through those stages. Bought not just my first car, but leased cars, stuff like that, boats, stuff like that. So I have the personal experience of living through the things that my new clients are doing when I have somebody who's purchasing their house shopping for the first
Right.
time, for instance. But more important is that with me, you get the best of both worlds because I have this multi-billion-dollar company behind me with call centers that if you're sitting at home 9, 10 o'clock at night on Sunday and you have a question about your policy, you could go online, you could call our call center, and
Right.
maybe I'm not there, okay, but somebody that's on my team will
Yeah,
be
but you just said if I email you at 2 o'clock in the morning, you're going to respond.
Trust me, I'm a
right?
big email guy.
It's-
Yeah, I do answer my email a lot. Yeah. So, but I have a process that's really unique, and it's unlike most insurance, even guys that other companies that are like me that do.
Right.
Because my thing is there's no such thing as somebody that I can't do business with. It's just it's not a matter of if we could do business, it's a matter of when we can do
Okay,
business.
so let me ask you, right? If I have a policy and I'm not sure if I have the right coverage,
Right.
okay, and I wanted to reach out to you and say, hey, Joe, look, I'm with so-and-so company right now. I don't know if I have the right coverage. Can you take a look at this for me and let me know if I have the right coverage or not?
Right.
And if not, what should be the right coverage? Can you
Exactly.
do that?
So-
and do you charge for that, something like
There's
that?
no charge for that at all. And not only will I look at your policy, and the best thing that can ever happen is that I look at all your policies and 15, 20 minutes later, I'm going to be like, Darren, I just found $2,000 that I could save you. Okay, because
Wow, yeah.
that's my ultimate thing. And I just improved this coverage and that coverage
And
at
you
the
just
same
became my
time.
best friend because you
Yeah,
just saved me
exactly.
$2,000,
Yeah.
right? So if I wanted to do that and wanted you to review my policies, how would I get in touch with you?
Take a picture of your policies and email them to me.
How would I get in touch with you?
You're going to
Joe?
call us. The best way is either through the email, which I believe you guys can put on the screen, joseph.gargiulo@libertymutual.com, or by calling me directly, 631-791-4076. So absolutely 100%. Take a picture of your policies, email them to me.
Right.
Okay? But once I have you in my system, if I can't save you that $1,000 a year, for instance, let's say, or if I can't improve your coverage for the same price, what I will do is let's say you're with XYZ company and your policy renews September 1st, and it's a 6-month policy. Okay, and here we are in August. Okay, I might just say, hey, Darren, listen, this is what we're going to do. It's not a matter of if we could do business, it's a matter of when. And there's no clear-cut ticket or accident that's coming off.
So you're not one of these high-pressure guys that are like, no, you got to come with me, and we're a better company. And
my biggest thing I used to dread was when I had a car that was leased and the lease was up and I had to go bring it back, because even if you didn't want to lease another car, they would try to pressure you. And if you were leasing or buying a car, you have all these car sales and swarming around you. And they make you feel like if you don't act right then, and
it's kind of like being in the Shark Tank.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, it's the worst. Yeah. Oh man. But what I do is that I will put you on follow up for February. And in February, I will email you my most up-to-date quote, not just from Liberty Mutual, but I represent other companies like Progressive and a whole bunch of other companies that Liberty Mutual is partnered with. Okay.
Right.
So in February, you'll receive an email from me with your permission, of course. Like I would set it up now and say, hey, listen, I can't do business with you now, but in February, do you mind if I send you a quote? And of course, you're going to say yes, because it's not costing you any money. And that's a perfect timing, because your policy, XYZ company, comes due in March because it's a 6-month policy.
Right.
So every 6 months, you're going to see what I have to offer, and you can compare it to what you have.
Right.
Because if your policy blows up, price-wise, or if there's a change that your policy company made in their coverages, for instance, let's say all of a sudden they're not covering certain things.
How often does that happen? I mean, I know, like, sometimes I'll get my policy, right now I have a really good insurance company for my auto, because I brought it, you know, I had a couple of other insurance agents look at it, you know, before it was like last year, and they both said to me, you got great coverage, we can't, you know, beat it, you know, stay with this company. And everybody tells me the same thing. The company that I'm with is probably one of the lowest rates with the best coverage. So I stay with them for that reason. And that's just the auto, right? But, you know, we're talking about now not only just auto, but you have all these different things. You got homeowners insurance. You got so say I'm going to give you a scenario.
Okay.
And I'm married. I own a home. I have 4 cars in my family because I have 2 kids that drive.
Okay.
All right. One is a high school age. The other one's in college. All right. And I live on Long Island.
Okay.
All right. So explain to me what process you would go through to make sure I'm covered soup to nuts with everything that I need.
Got it.
All right.
Okay. So the biggest asset out of everything that most of us purchase is our house. Okay. But before that, people always think, all right, that's the most valuable thing. But really, the most valuable thing is your ability every day to get up and go to work and make money. So it's amazing how we get tied into these budgets where we're putting so much money towards our car payments, and every kid has a cell phone, and we have these cable
and they use all the data.
Yeah, right.
No matter what your plant size is, the data's. We got no data left. So
And then in addition to having the cable plan with every channel, we have Netflix that we're paying for, and Spotify, and all these things. Yet,
and the kids don't watch cable anymore.
Yeah,
they watch the Netflix.
Right.
They watch,
So we have these crazy budgets. Yet sometimes I'll run across families that aren't even putting aside $100 a month towards the life insurance. Okay, so that's huge right there. Or sometimes people will just say, "Oh, I got coverage at work," but they don't even know what they have at work. You know, maybe 1 times the salary, maybe only 10,000. Who knows? Okay. Then you have the home, which is the biggest asset that you own. Right. So holistically, what's our biggest risk? Our biggest risk is not even the house burning down or other than the person dying, that's obviously the biggest risk, is liability. One of the kids getting into a car accident.
Right.
And now, whether it's really the kid's fault or not, somebody else gets really injured,
So if
you're on the receiving end of a huge lawsuit.
So if I have a kid that is on my policy, right, and the
Right.
car is registered to us, right, and he gets into an accident or she gets into an accident, I can get sued
Right.
because I'm the owner of the vehicle.
Absolutely. And
All
that's why, but it's funny because back in the day when I started,
Mm-hmm.
1986, we had two different liability rates that we sold. It
Right.
was the basic liability, which back then was 10,000 per
Yeah, it was a-
person,
yeah, it was a-
20,000. And then if you owned a house, you got the 100, 300.
Right, yeah.
Everybody says, oh, I have 100, 300.
Yeah.
That was 1986. Think
Right.
about that. Okay? Fast forward today.
Yeah.
103, it's nothing. 100,000 is nothing.
Right.
Okay? So the staple, the norm that I want to see all my customers have is $1 million umbrella
Right.
policy on top of the auto and the homeowners.
Now, would you recommend, all right, if and I know how expensive it is to put these kids on an
Right.
insurance policy, would you recommend having a kid get their own policy right out of the gate? Because most of the time you're going to buy these used cars for your kids
Right.
that they're paid for, and you don't need collision, you don't need all this
Right.
other stuff, and because I've had other agents tell me that it's important for them to get out of the high risk pool, okay,
Right.
and get their own policy, because that'll bring their rates down.
Right.
Does that make sense?
No, and I'll tell you why. Because cost-wise, I mean, first of all, if you saw some of the stuff that comes across my email, you'd be floored. I have 20, 21-year-olds that will email me declaration pages because their mom and dad put them on their own. Basic liability, $600-700 a month.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because they had a ticket or an accident.
Right.
Okay, and that is stuck because nobody's going to take them.
Right.
Okay, mom and dad don't want them; they're in policy now.
Right, yeah.
Okay, so instead of putting the kid out there and at a young age, I'd much rather see that family take the. It's going to cost less money to go out and buy an umbrella policy and have the kid driving a car that's covered between the $1 million umbrella and
Right.
250, 500, which is 250,000 per person, 500,000 per
Which is like the
accident.
100, 300.
Right, exactly.
From our
So
day.
basically, have that kid driving around $1.5 million of liability protecting them.
Right.
Okay. First of all, if it's a minor, the parent's going to be sued anyway because even if the registration's in the kid's name and the title's in the kid's name, who's paying for all that?
Right.
Okay. The kid's not affording that. Okay.
Yeah.
So a court's going to file the money anyway. But more importantly, it's the protection. Okay. And when that child graduates college and they get their own job, you make the phone call like I made to my son. Hey, Joey, so happy you got
It's
that
time."
job. It's time. And you know what he said? I would love to that. It wasn't like I don't want to do this. And you know what? You're with the same company. We're going to give a family discount anyway. You're going to get a multi-car discount. It's much easier to rip the Band-Aid off at a later age than to do it in a haphazard way and leave that kid out there with little coverage.
I also heard age 25 is like the age that the rates really drop.
No more.
No more, huh?
No more, no.
Okay.
Things are
I was promised
really
that date
evolving
on
in
my
my
insurance.
industry. No, and that was the day.
And it's coming. It's
Yeah.
coming. No,
Just
it's
like
not
it
gonna
used to be, young males paid more for females.
Right.
Everything is so. There's no way to even describe the rates now. There's so many variables that go into play. So
Is that because of what these other companies have done online with being able to create an a la carte policy?
No, it's more because of computers that are our supercomputers. They're able to compress all this data
Right.
and figure out what's the correct price for the correct risk. So seriously, somebody who's 6 months before their 25th birthday, are they really a different driver than they are on their 25th birthday?
Right.
No. So the old traditional way was the rates would fall off like a cliff on that day.
Right, and that's what I was told.
Right.
It was like, yeah.
Okay. And it didn't make any sense. So now everything's more blended. So a 24-year-old might pay a little bit more than a 25-year-old, who might pay a little bit more than a 26-year-old.
Right.
Until we hit that
So every
sweet
year
spot.
it's going to go down a little bit based on the age. So,
Usually.
So it's not this big drop off like
No
it used
more.
to be. Now it's just this nice slow.
Right. Everything is
curve.
blended. Like for most companies now.
Which to me is fairer.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just like years ago we used to list specific operators on certain cars,
Right.
but you have kids?
Yes.
They drive?
Yes.
Okay, you're telling me that if your car is at the end of the driveway and the kid needs to go to the store and get groceries, they're not going to take your car, or they're not going to get behind your car to move your car out of the way to get their car. So who's really driving what car? You know what I
Right,
mean?
yeah.
So now it's just blended. We just list all the operators, we list all the cars,
Yeah.
and the computer punches all the numbers and figures out, okay, here's a blended, this is everybody's ages, this is
Yeah.
all the cars, these are the rates. And
I
it's
gotcha.
just, and it just makes for better underwriting, really, and better pricing.
Right. Okay. So that's an advantage of going to you is that the way you guys do it is you really blend it.
Right.
Right.
Absolutely.
Because I know my policy,
Mhm.
it's each car is listed.
Mhm.
And
Oh, it
each
has an
person,
operator listed
and it
next to
has
it,
an
yeah.
operator listed to it. And I can tell you this: the youngest one, his number's way up here. All our numbers are way down here. You know, and he's 19. So
Right,
it's
right, right.
it's you know you sit there and you go, wow, you know,
Yep.
it's a big difference.
Yep.
In why it, you know, and his car's the oldest out of the group, you know,
Right.
and we don't have you know collision on it or anything like that.
Right. Exactly.
It's amazing to us the difference in the pricing because of that. So you know, the company I use obviously still kind of uses that formula, I guess, or
Right.
we're doing it the old way.
Yeah. And you had mentioned like you had asked me actually like how often rates change, and this year is unlike any year I've seen in a very, very long time.
So why do rates change? What are the factors that make them change?
Well, right now the regulations in New York just changed in June, and traditionally insurance is always based upon the risk, right?
Right.
So we would ask things like age, where you live, what kind of car you drive, right?
Right.
Like those are the main things. And then if the person had tickets or accidents, how long you lived at your house.
Right.
And then one day somebody ran some computer models and said, hey, people that have better credit scores tend to have less claims, so let's put credit scores in there. And then more computers, the supercomputers, figured out people with certain occupations, for some reason, had less claims than other occupations.
Right.
People with certain levels of education had different rates,
Right.
different rates because they had different claim levels. But New York State just passed a regulation that came out in June that basically dictates that insurance companies in New York can no longer use occupation or education in their underwriting. So
now it levels the playing field.
right,
So, but now those people that were getting the lower rates, their rates are going to come up.
exactly.
And the people that had the higher rates, they're going to come down a little.
Right.
So level it all out.
And now if you're an insurance company, you kind of have to reinvent the wheel because you just had two variables that were working
Right.
taken away from you. So now either you have to rely more heavily on the other variables of the risk or
Right.
look for new variables to look at. So it's a unique situation that's going on. So I have people who are calling me or emailing me they've been with the same company for 15, 20 years. Their rate barely has moved.
Right.
And all of a sudden they're
just
seeing
jumped.
20, 30, 40%
Well-
increase just this year because their policy's being re-rated.
I had a similar experience. I used to live out east, right? And then I moved to a more populated area on Long Island.
Right.
And when I moved, and I notified the insurance company, and I'm not gonna name the company, but when I called Flo and told her that I moved, okay, my policy went up almost $1,000 a year, and I was like, why? And they said, because you're in a very populated area now as compared to where you were.
Right.
I'm like, but Long Island's not that big.
Right,
You know,
yeah.
like to me, it was
know.
like, it didn't make any sense as to why they did that.
Right.
But they told me it was because of the population of where I was living now compared to the population of where I was living. And it was only 15 miles apart.
Right. And it's tough because insurance companies have to draw the lines in the sand somewhere. So like when I started in the business, it was Nassau and Suffolk. And then it
Right.
was Eastern Suffolk, Western Suffolk. And then all of a sudden it was northeastern, and then they do
Yeah.
quadrants. And now some companies use zip codes. Some
Yeah.
companies use geo rating. Like they could tell by your address what your latitude, longitude is.
Yeah.
And everybody within a 20-mile radius of that, what are the claims experience for that company?
Yeah.
It's like every company's trying to reinvent the wheel in that aspect.
They're trying to
but
figure
it
that
does
out.
suck because you do have to draw the lines in the sand.
Well,
somewhere.
it's funny. Then I found the company that I'm with now, and it was like $900 cheaper than what
Right.
Flo was offering me, and supposedly the coverage was better.
Yeah.
Because
It
that,
probably
at
was,
that time,
yeah.
and at that time, the agent, because I went to an agent,
Right.
an expert, somebody who knows what they're talking about, instead of me picking it off the internet, because that's what I did.
Right.
They told me, no, you got the wrong coverage here. This is really what you should have. And that goes to homeowners. We
Right.
touched on it, and a lot of people get homeowners because the mortgage company
Right, it's
tells them
required.
you're required to have homeowners and you have to have these minimums. So what
Right.
do? They
Right.
go and they get those minimums. But let's talk about the different coverages that people need. We talked about flood insurance,
Right. Yeah.
and I said, my house, I have a outside entrance to my basement,
Mm-hmm.
and every once in a while, if the dry well in the stairwell is clogged, I'll start getting water seeping into my basement.
Right.
Which is a flood situation, and it could affect me. Now, if I don't have flood insurance, I'm not going to get anything for that, right?
Right. Well, and even if you have flood insurance, it has to be a qualified flood according to FEMA.
Right.
Which basically, and flood insurance is so important. It really is. Okay. But like a qualified flood would be a flood that affects 2 or more properties or 2 or more acres. So basically, a downpour storm
Right.
would be, like if somebody's pool burst and flooded their backyard, that's not a qualified flood. Okay.
Right.
That's
Okay.
a totally different situation. But for the most part, like these torrential downpours that we've been having,
Yes. Yeah.
there's been a lot of people that didn't have flood insurance, and had they had flood insurance, all the water that got into their basement and destroyed their oil burner and their
Because sometimes that happens too. We just had, and believe it or not, I'm going to give you a situation where we just found out that the vent cap off our oil tank, it rotted over years or whatever. We're not looking at the vent cap on our oil tank.
Oh, yeah, right.
It came off, and with all these downpours, now we got water in our oil tank, and we had to
Wow.
get that taken care of.
Yeah, it's nuts.
So I mean, things like that, when all these torrential downpours, could affect what's going on in my house.
Right, absolutely.
And if I don't have the right homeowner coverage,
Yep.
is what you're telling me.
Yeah,
it
well,
won't cover it.
you're speaking to, like, we're talking about water coming in and rain. So
Mm-hmm.
there were a lot of Long Islanders, and I was one of them in my old house, that have sump pumps.
Right.
Okay, so a lot of people don't realize that you could have a rider on your homeowners in case the sump pump fails.
Okay.
Or if you hook up to a sewer system and the sewer trap fails.
Right.
Because that's a mess that you don't want to deal
Yeah.
with.
Right.
okay?
Right. Yeah.
Let somebody else deal with it. But I see homeowners policies all day long from other companies that for $40, $50 or whatever it is a year, their insurance company didn't include it. Maybe they were afraid to include it, like, because you said, like, people just go out and buy the minimum coverage. Maybe the client
But they
didn't
don't-
know
they
about
don't
it.
even
Maybe the
realize
right
what that
question
is.
wasn't asked, right?
Yeah.
Do you have a sump pump? Do you live on the bottom of a hill?
Right.
Because when it rains and you are hooked up with the sewers, who's going to get all the sewage?
I know all the
Okay?
questions that are always asked, right? Where do you live? Are you within 100 feet of a fire hydrant?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Right, and we don't even ask that now because the computer knows all that.
Right.
Those are questions I used to ask.
Yeah.
But it is really important because there's so many. We have a rider that's so unique that a lot of people don't even realize exists out there. It covers. So you had mentioned. I heard the story that something happened to your cell phone, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So yeah.
So we have a rider.
So my homeowners will cover that.
We have a rider. $50. It costs very, very minimal. $30,
Right.
$40 a year, whatever it is, and
Right.
it comes with a $50 deductible. So even if you carry a $1,000 deductible in your home,
Right.
$50 deductible, your cell phone gets run over,
Right.
you lose it, your laptop, it covers cell phones, laptops, and tablets.
So let me ask you this, right? If I wanted to get in touch with you so you can review not only my auto but my home, right? And we're going to get into umbrella in a second. How would I get in touch with you?
Okay, so very simple. You can call me at 631-791-4076. Option 1 goes right to my phone. Or you can email me at joseph.gargiulo@libertymutual.com.
All right, Joe. Thank you very much.
got
Okay.
it.
So now let's get on to the next one. We talked about life,
Yeah.
right? We talked about auto.
Mm-hmm.
And if you got kids that are driving, just run for the hills.
Oh, yeah,
Because
it's
when
bad.
first time we put a kid on a policy and it went, we were like,
Do
oh
you
my
know, I
God.
received somebody emailed me a policy the other day. It was $2,000 a month. They had
$2,000 a month. Wow.
They had triplets and a younger daughter.
Triplets. And he-
Okay, so think about it. So
Four
the
kids.
triplets were 18 and the younger daughter was 16.
Wow.
So 4 kids, 18 and under.
Wow.
Okay, 6 cars,
Yeah.
$24,000 a year. I didn't know they were paying $24,000 a year until I scrolled all the way down. And I had done my quote, and it came out to like $16,000 a year, and I'm like, I'm not telling this person this price. Then I got to 20. I'm like, oh man, I just saved this person $8,000. You know.
So
Wow.
they had to be excited about that.
Oh,
Well, I
yeah.
just had a client tell me yesterday he bought his kid a car. He spent like $2,000 on a car. It's going to cost him $4,000 a year to
Right.
insure it.
Yeah.
You know, and he's like,
Wow. The rates are bad because the triplets. They say triplets act together. They think together.
Right.
3 accidents,
It's-
all
oh, really?
within 2 weeks of each other. I mean, you can't make that up. Okay, so I mean, that's why the rates were ridiculous.
Right.
you
So
know?
their experience rate was a little.
Yeah, I mean,
was
they did
a
everything
little-
the same, but you don't want to do that the same. You know. It's not-
So what's umbrella insurance?
All right,
You know,
so-
people talk about that, and you see, you know, there's a company that has
Yeah,
the umbrella
right,
as,
yeah.
as their symbol. And
So an umbrella policy, think of an umbrella policy as a third policy over and above your auto, your home. And if you have other policies like a boat, motorcycle, if you own rental homes,
Okay.
it's a personal liability policy. I used to work with someone who she had inherited mom's house that she rented to other people.
Okay.
And she described to our clients as an umbrella policy as her sleeping pill because it allowed her to sleep well at night. Because she knew that if those clients threw a big party and somebody got hurt in the property, or they forgot to shovel the snow and somebody slipped and fell, and she got sued as a landlord, she had this $1 million umbrella policy that would cover her.
that would cover her.
So it's excess liability. It only comes in play if your limits on your auto, your home, or your other policies are exceeded.
So if I have an homeowners
Mm-hmm.
and I have a party, say, and somebody gets hurt,
Mm-hmm.
and my homeowners doesn't cover the whole thing, my umbrella policy would then kick in.
Right. And
Right?
think about this too. It's not just what you lose in court, because when you get sued, you lose.
Right.
It's your legal defense. You don't have to go
Right.
out and hire an attorney. We do, because it's our money on the line.
Right.
And you can rest assured, it doesn't matter if it's Liberty Mutual, Flow, or anybody,
Mm-hmm.
if a company has over $1 million on the line, they're
Right.
going to roll out the best attorneys they can to defend you
Oh, without
in
a
that
doubt.
situation, because there's
Yes.
a lot of money on the line here.
Yeah.
So that's what's really cool about the umbrella policy, and it covers one other thing that's not covered anywhere else on your auto or your home or anything else, and that's personal injury. So here's the difference. Bodily injury is if somebody does slip and fall,
Right.
or you rear-end somebody and they get hurt. Personal injury is if somebody's reputation or something is tarnished. So
Right.
perfect example, we live in a digital age with social media.
Yeah.
One of our children go online and they start
Bullying somebody or something
yeah.
like that.
Or
And
here's
then
a
you get
perfect
sued for it.
example. There's a website called ratemyteacher.com
Right.
where college kids or high school kids can go on and write comments. This teacher's boring, I fell asleep in the class.
Right.
This teacher,
And
gives
if it
too much
hurts them,
homework.
they can then sue. And
But what if they write, this teacher hits on every girl in the class?
Yeah.
And then that teacher gets suspended for a wrongful accusation.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden his attorney, he's got some money behind him. He does a trace and it comes out to your IP address, your
Now-
internet connection.
now
You're being sued for
Right.
slander, right?
Right.
Okay? So that's what's really cool about the umbrella policy. It covers libel and slander.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So, Joe, I told you the time would fly by.
Yeah, it did.
Right?
I can't believe it. Wow.
So we're almost out of time here, but one of the things I want to mention, okay, and, Joe got married July 14th.
I did, yes.
All right. So, Joe, why don't you,
Yeah, she's-
give a shout out
she's a-
to you,
she's a-
wonderful
she's a real
bride,
good
and,
egg.
congratulations, and we're really
Thank
happy
you.
for you and stuff. So,
Yeah, so her name is Jean, and she really is an awesome person, and she really probably the only person I know is a harder worker than I,
right.
and has a bigger heart than I do.
So-
and I love you, Jean, I really do.
I saw the pictures, and we're going to show the pictures on the screen. you're around palm trees, but you're telling me that you got married on Long Island.
Yeah.
How did that go?
So we wanted a beachfront wedding.
Right.
And we found a place in Bayville.
Okay.
It's Crescent Beach Club. And they actually bring the palm trees up every year from Florida or Carolinas or whatever, and they plant them, and then they die at the end of the year. But they plant these palm trees on the beach, and you'll see in the photos.
Yeah.
You
Well,
couldn't tell
that's why I said in the
yeah,
photos.
it looked like a location wedding.
Because I asked you, I said, so where was it? And you said, oh, it was on
And
Bayville.
I was
like,
we were
know palm
both
trees.
so grateful to have all our friends and family and
Excellent.
coworkers there and to enjoy, and celebrate with us. It was pretty.
Excellent.
My best man married me, which was kind of
Oh,
cool.
that's cool. That's very cool.
By the power invested in by the World Wide Web.
That's it.
Yep, he became ordained. So it's kind of cool. Yeah.
All right, excellent, Joe.
Yeah.
All right, so thank you for being on the
Yeah,
show.
thank you.
We had a great time, and look
Yes.
forward to having you back.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right.
All right, you got
Thank
it.
you.
Thanks.
All right, everybody. We had a great time today. As you know, Joe, get in touch with Joe. All his information's on the screen. You'll be able to get in touch with him. So, we're looking forward to next week. All right, next week is our charity week. So don't forget to tune in for that. And hopefully Norman will be back with us. If not, Norman will be back very soon. So everybody have a great night. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
Today's show is brought to you by Friend Entertainment USA, producing the best concerts for charities and corporations for over 30 years. And CBMS Consulting Services, control your business before it controls you. In association with Area 22 Productions, your multimedia streaming network. If you're interested in being a guest on our show, visit our website at www.bphdmm.com for more information.